After having looked at an introduction, rather the biography of Alfred Lord Tennyson, let us begin to study the poem Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Introduction to the poem. Ulysses was written in 1833 by Alfred Lord Tennyson, the future poet laureate of Great Britain. The poem takes the form of a dramatic monologue spoken by Ulysses, a character who also appears in Homer's Greek epic, the Odyssey, and Dante's Italian epic, the Inferno. Ulysses, by the way, is the Latinized name of Odysseus. In the Odyssey, Ulysses or Odysseus struggles to return home. But in Tennyson's Ulysses, an aged Ulysses is frustrated with domestic life and yearns to set sail again and continue exploring the world. Dante seems to condemn Ulysses' recklessness as an explorer, but in Tennyson's poem, there is nobility and heroism in Ulysses' boundless curiosity and undaunted spirit. The summary of the poem Ulysses. Ulysses or Odysseus declares that there is little point in his staying home by this still hearth with his old wife, doling out rewards and punishments for the unnamed masses who live in his kingdom. Still speaking to himself, he proclaims that he cannot rest from travel, but feels compelled to live to the fullest and swallow every last drop of life. Still speaking to himself, he proclaims that he cannot rest from travel, but feels compelled to live to the fullest and swallow every last drop of life. He has enjoyed all his experiences as a sailor who travels the seas, and he considers himself a symbol for everyone who wanders and roams the earth. His travels have exposed him to many different types of people and ways of living. They have also exposed him to the delight of battle while fighting the Trojan War with his men. Ulysses declares that his travels and encounters have shaped who he is. I am a part of all that I have met, he asserts. And it is only when he is traveling that the margin of the globe that he has not yet traversed shrink and fade and cease to goad him. Ulysses declares that it is boring to stay in one place, and that to remain stationary is to rust rather than to shine. To stay in one place is to pretend that all there is to life is the simple act of breathing, whereas he knows that in fact life contains much novelty, and he longs to encounter this. His spirit yearns constantly for new experiences that will broaden his horizons. He wishes to follow knowledge like a sinking star and forever grow in wisdom and in learning. Ulysses now speaks of an unidentified audience concerning his son Telemachus, who will act as his successor while the great hero resumes his travels. He says, "This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle." The scepter was the symbol of the dominance and authority of the king. He speaks highly but also patronizingly of his son's capabilities as a ruler, praising his prudence, dedication, and devotion to the gods. Telemachus will do his work of governing the island, while Ulysses will do his work of traveling the seas. He works his work, I mine, says Ulysses. In the final stanza, Ulysses addresses the mariners with whom he has worked, travelled, and weathered life's storms over many years. He declares that although he and they are old, they still have the potential to do something noble and honorable before the long day wanes. He encourages them to make use of their old age because 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. He declares that his goal is to sail onward beyond the sunset until his death. Perhaps, he suggests, they may even reach the Happy Isles or the paradise of perpetual summer described in Greek mythology, where great heroes like the warrior Achilles were believed to have been taken after their deaths. Although Ulysses and his mariners are not as strong as they were in youth, they are strong in will and are sustained by their resolve to push onward relentlessly, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Ulysses expresses his frustration at how dull and pointless his life now seems as king of Ithaca, trapped at home on the rocky island of Ithaca. His wife is old and he must spend his time enforcing imperfect laws as he attempts to govern people he considers stupid and uncivilized. In Ulysses' eyes, all his people do is try to store up wealth, sleep, and eat. They have no conception of who Ulysses really is or what his life has been like. Ulysses still yearns to travel the world like he used to. As long as he is alive, he does not want to stop doing the things that, in his eyes, make life worth living. He found joy, he claims, in every moment he spent traveling, even at the times when he was suffering. He found joy both when he was with his faithful crew members and when he was by himself, both when he was on land and when he was sailing the sea through rainstorms. He has become famous throughout the world as an explorer who has continually traveling and yearning to know more. Ulysses reflects that he has seen and learned a great deal about all the places where people live, about their lifestyles, cultures, and ways of governing themselves. Everywhere he went, he was shown honor and respect. Ulysses also found joy fighting alongside his fellow soldiers, men he honored and respected, when he fought in battles far from home in the Trojan War. Ulysses feels that each person and place he has encountered has been changed by the encounter, as he has himself. But all these experiences have not satisfied his desire for travel. Rather, each encounter has only whetted his appetite to see more of the world. No matter how much of the world he sees, there is always still more to see. And it is these unseen regions that he always tries to pursue. Ulysses exclaims that it is boring and unsatisfying to stay in one place and stop doing the activities that defined your life, comparing himself to a sword that has been allowed to rust uselessly away rather than being used gloriously in battle. Merely being alive does not mean you are truly living. Ulysses feels that multiple lifetimes would still have been too little time to do all he wishes to do, and he is almost at the end of the one lifetime he has. Still, every hour that he has left to live before he dies has the potential to bring some new opportunities for action. It would be disgraceful, he feels, to sit tight at home and just try to eat and stay alive for a few more years, when, even as an old man, his greatest desire is still to explore the world and keep learning more. He wants to go beyond the limits of what humans have seen and known, the way a shooting star seems to go beyond the horizon when it falls and disappears from sight. Ulysses then starts to describe his son Telemachus, who will inherit Ulysses' role as ruler of the island when Ulysses dies. He affirms that he loves his son, who is conscientious and thoughtful about how he will best carry out his responsibilities as ruler. With patience and judgment, Telemachus will work to civilize the fierce willed wild people of Ithaca and make them more gentle, and gradually teach them to devote their lives to productive civic activities. Ulysses cannot find any fault in Telemachus. He devotes his life to the responsibilities of his role. He pays proper respect to his people and his parents, and after his father dies, he will continue offering appropriate sacrifices to the gods that Ulysses most honored. Telemachus is well suited for the role of the ruler, just as Ulysses is well suited for a different role, the role of an explorer. Ulysses looks out towards the port where the wind is blowing in the sails of his ship and where he can see the wide dark sea. He now addresses his former crew, the men who worked alongside him and explored the world and gained new knowledge with him. He reminds them that they always accepted joyfully whatever their travels would bring, whether trouble or good luck, and proudly faced every obstacle with resolution and bravery. Ulysses then acknowledges that both he and they have grown older, but insists that even as old men, they can still work, do hard work, and earn respect. Soon they will die, and their chance to do great deeds will be over. But before they die, they can still accomplish something heroic, something fitting for men that once battled the gods. The people of Ithaca are beginning to light lamps in their homes. Night is falling, the moon is rising in the sky, the waves of the sea are murmuring, almost as if they are speaking to Ulysses. Ulysses urges his crew, as his friends, to join him on one last voyage. Even now, they are not too old to explore some unknown region of the world. He invites them to board a ship, push away from shore, and man the oars so they can beat the waves. Because Ulysses still has the goal of sailing past the horizon as far as he can go before he ultimately dies. He acknowledges that the waves may sink their ship, but they may also find their way to the place where the souls of the blessed go after death. There, they might even see their old companion, the accomplished warrior Achilles. Many of their heroic qualities have been diminished by old age, but they haven't been lost completely. They don't have the same strength or physical prowess they possessed as younger men, fighting epic, world changing battles. But inside, Ulysses declares, they are ultimately the same men they always were. Their minds and hearts are still brave and composed in the face of danger and obstacles. Their bodies have been weakened by old age, something all human beings are destined to face, but their spirits are as strong as ever. They remain determined to work hard and pursue their goals and accomplish them and never to give up. This was the summary of the poem Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. In the next session, we will look at the poem in detail, line by line, and the meaning of each line.